好朋友，早上好！欢迎你们到德伟老师的中文教室。Good morning, friendly friends, and welcome back to Teacher Dave's Mandarin Chinese classroom. We have a lot to do today, can't you see? We've been on the beach gathering useful vocabulary. Such fun. We're going to talk about that a little bit. We're kind of getting ahead of ourselves because we haven't even done all of our phonetics yet. But that's okay. We can have some fun with our beach vocab. And we'll do a little short answer stuff. Again, we're getting ahead of ourselves, but that's okay. We can use this stuff to talk about some more advanced Chinese stuff a little bit, like reduplicating our verbs, which sounds redundant, but that's the word that we used when we studied that. So that's what I'm going to use. And we're also going to, like I said, discuss some phonetics that we haven't gone over yet. It's getting a little tougher, the pronunciation between the tones and the phonetics. It's not that easy, is it? But I encourage you to really focus on the pronunciation early. It's going to make everything easier later, from looking up characters to listening comprehension to, of course, being understood when you speak. There's so many homophones in Chinese. And if you're hacking your way through it, do your best. Do your best. But I encourage you to really go slowly and try to nail down the pronunciation early. So those things like surfing the tones, where when two third tones come together, the first one becomes a second tone. 我也很好. 我也很好. Right? Remember that? Okay. Good deal. Okay, so we went to the beach. We saw a bunch of cool stuff. We took a bunch of messy notes on whatever we had. We had some spare paper in our backpack, so we just pulled it out and we wrote down some stuff like fish and sand crabs and sand dollars and seaweed and pretty clouds and pretty rocks and what else do we see? Waves and feathers and sea glass. We were wondering how to say that. Scenery, jellyfish. Anyway, we wrote that down and then we came back and we saw. I've been saying it wrong, and I apologize to the fans of paragliding. I said everything. I called it hang gliding and then parasailing. Hang gliding is a different sport altogether. Parasailing is where you get pulled behind the boat down in Mexico and get to go way up high and pulled behind the speedboat. And then, but paragliding is where they hike up with the parachute on their backpack and jump off the cliff and go soaring through the sky. It's really cool. But we saw some of that going on, so we were wondering how to say that. Yeah, so shall we? Let's. So first, let's go down just kind of our list of some of the stuff that we found at the beach, shall we? And maybe we'll try some pronunciation stuff. I did want to show you a couple of things. So let's start with paragliding, just because I actually had to look up some characters on this. And I just sort of wanted to show you the process a little bit. So we came up with, first we thought it was parasailing. We called it hang gliding, but we knew it wasn't that. Then we called it parasailing. Kind of knew it wasn't that. Figured out it was paragliding. And then we asked Siri, since we couldn't find paragliding in our dictionaries, Siri told us that it was 滑翔伞运动. And Siri also gave us the characters, which is really great. So what you can do then, and it serves as a mnemonic device as well. A mnemonic device is something that helps you to remember something else, right? So if you take these words that are combined of two characters, or you take a phrase, you can sort of pick it apart and identify the individual components, and that'll help you remember the whole thing. So I already knew that hua in the case of an activity or a sport can like mean to glide over the top of something, right? Like I remember I used to ride a skateboard, and my teacher told me that was a huaban. So it's like a plank or a board, designed for for sliding over stuff. And I also knew that huaping is to ice skate, right? To slide across the ice. Bing is ice, like 冰水, right? Ice water, 水, 冰水, ice water. Getting ahead of ourselves, but why not? You can say 冰水. Of course you can. Yeah. And so, I already knew 滑. It also means just slippery. 哇，那个冰很滑. That ice is very slippery. I lived in Tahoe for several years, and I can tell you that the Bing is indeed 很滑, very slippery. Okay. But 响, I didn't know what that meant. 响. So that's a new sound for us, the X sound. And when followed by, so 响 is spelled Xiang, second tone. And it's like shi, ang, xiang. That would be first tone, right? 很香. Wow, 那个花很香. 香 means fragrant, and 花 is a flower. 玫瑰花很香. Roses are very fragrant. How nice. 西安香. Can you make that sound? Anyway, 滑翔would be like to slide and soar, to soar. And san is 雨伞 的伞. Do you remember our 雨 sound? 一 u 雨 雨. It's like you almost end up in a whistling little shape with your lips. 一 u 雨. Can you make that noise? Can you make that noise? Can you make that sound? 雨, right? 雨伞 is an umbrella. A san is an umbrella. San would be S-A-N, third tone. San. Okay? And then 运动. That one is, that's used a lot. That is an activity or a sport, right? 运动. So when we start looking up these characters, right, it gets a little tricky because we go to our dictionary, right, and we look up hua, and we find it. It's in there. It says slippery. Okay? So it didn't help us all that much. It didn't give us, I think actually it did give us, what did it give us? That's it. It just said slippery, I believe. And it didn't have xiang. Xiang was not in here. Xiang, the character had the feather radical on the right-hand side and something else, I don't remember what it was, on the left-hand side. But it was pretty easy to find, but not in here, okay? I had to whip out the big guns. And the big guns, this takes two hands to pick up the big guns. But the good news about the big guns is in the little guns. You can't even see it. You need a magnifying glass at my age to even see that. Whereas when you get into this thing, wow, look at that. Feast your eyes, party people. And don't be jealous. It's falling apart. Poor thing. But this is called a Matthews Dictionary. Matthews Dictionary. And it's only the full form characters. And this has many more characters in it, first of all. And second of all, it gives you all the classical definitions. So when you begin to study classical Chinese, you're going to need to pick up one of these. So good luck. Look how tattered the index is. It's hilarious. Look at the pages on the index. I mean, this thing has been used to look up a few characters. And I used to have 3 of these. I had 2 big ones and a little one. Excuse me. I still have my little one and 1 big one, but the other one, I think I gave it to somebody else. But you can see that I've duct taped it. Oh, one more thing. And this uses a different system of romanization. So romanization is how we put the Chinese into our alphabet, right? This uses what's called the Wade-Giles romanization. So there are many systems of romanization, unfortunately. And, we just learned the Xiang, Xiang, right? Well, and it's an X in Pinyin, and in Wade-Giles, it's an HS. That's how you make that initial. So instead of an X, you spell it HS. And anyway, I'm getting way too far ahead of myself. But there's another system of romanization. And unfortunately, a lot of the older scholars, the people who did the early translations of a lot of the, classical poetry and all of that stuff, for some reason, every time, how can I put this? Many of the old scholars felt compelled to make their own systems of romanization. So they thought that the 7 other systems that came before theirs were insufficient, and that prompted them to do yet another one. So get used to that. It gets pretty confusing. But this is the one you're going to use a lot, Wade-Giles, if you get into classical Chinese and the Matthews Dictionary. And actually, we're gonna do some of that too, shortly, but not today. So we had to get out the big guns to look up Xiang, and we found it right away. It was easy to find, and it's to soar. And then San, we know that as an umbrella. Apparently, it can also be like a parachute, like San Bing, our paratroopers. San Bing. And so that's that. So we look up our characters, right? We made a little flashcard. And then on this side, we put paragliding, not parasailing. And what I wouldn't even put not parasailing, but because what you're doing there is you're going to keep yourself confused doing that. So I wouldn't even put that on there. That's bad. Bad pedagogy, bad learning. I would put paragliding because we're forming new patterns of thought, not reinforcing old ones. Paragliding is 滑翔伞运动. 滑翔伞运动. And you see I've taken all these little notes. I circle that part of the character. Okay. 很滑, 滑板, whatever else I wrote down there. And then, so that helps me kind of remember. It gives me something to help me remember the whole phrase by 滑翔伞运动. So there's my little flashcard. But we don't need to worry about saying that too much. But we did see paragliders, didn't we? And we also have these little flashcards, remember? Waves. 海浪. Beach. Do you remember how to say beach? 海滩. We remember. What about seagull? 海鸥. 海鸥, 海鸥. It's off to the beach we go. Dun, 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 dun. Sorry about that. Okay, let's read down our list of stuff just for fun. 海滩. Repeat after me, please. Beach is 海滩. How would you say a beach walk? To go for a stroll is 散步. S-A-N-B-U. Fourth tone. 散步. So you might say 海滩散步. Nature, 风景. You can also say 自然. Ooh, that's really hard, but that's our new phonetics. So remember that the Z, 字, is pronounced Z-I, right? And that's a fourth tone. 自然, it's 自己的自. 自己 means oneself, like by oneself. 自然. So the Z is like a DZ. I'm going to drink of water. And ZI is pronounced 字. So it's like you start it with a D and then you go straight to the Z and 字. 字. And then 然. 然 is like 人. 人 is a person, right? 自然. 然后的然. 自然. That's a hard one. So the zh is almost like it's like you start out with an SH, sh, and you kind of go to the R. Zh, zh. I know you can hear that. Can you reproduce it? Zh. And then in this case, it's 然, 自然, 自然. Can you say that? Or 景色. But when I learned it, we would say 风景. Let's stick with that for now. 风景 is like nature or scenery. Shells are 贝壳, B-E-I, fourth tone, K-E, second tone. 贝壳, shells. Waves, 海浪. Oh, we put that on our flashcard. We like the waves, don't we? So I wonder if you could say 划海浪. Could that be a sport, like gliding on the waves? Maybe boogie boarding or surfing, I think, is something different, but I don't remember how to say surfing. Nor did I look it up. Shame on me. That's my homework. To be continued. Sand is 沙滩, 沙滩. S-H-A, first tone, T-A-N. 沙滩. Repeat after me, please. Feathers. 羽毛, 羽毛. 一, 乌, 鱼, 鱼. 羽毛 are feathers. M-A-O is second tone. 羽 is Y-U with the umlaut over the top of it. Second tone. I'm sorry, third tone. 羽毛, 下雨的雨, right? It's raining. Is it? Is that the right? It's not 下雨的雨, but that's a homophone. But it's not the character for feathers. So sorry about that. It is a homophone for it though. 羽毛, 羽毛. Feathers. Sea glass. 海玻璃 is what we're going for on that. So that's a very literal translation, but it kind of gets the idea across, doesn't it? I guess you could also say 海滩玻璃, beach glass. That would make sense. That would probably make more sense. Pretty rocks. 漂亮的石头 is what I'm going with there. 漂亮的石头. Ocean is 海 or 大海, the big sea. Jellyfish, we came up with 水母, 水母. 喝水的水. 母亲的母. 水 is water and 母 is mother. So jellyfish is apparently water mother, if I have that correct. 水母. And so the first third tone becomes a second tone. 水母, 水母. Can you hear it? Can you say it? 水母. So I know from studying Chinese, and this isn't putting anybody down, but there were a few people in my classes over the years that they just really couldn't hear the tones. They just can't hear them. And if you can't hear them, how are you supposed to reproduce them? And so to those people, I say, get good at your writing, right? Because it's going to be difficult in a tonal language. If you really can't hear the tones and you can't replicate the tones, you're going to struggle. But one quick way to get around that is to be able to write those things out. Crank out those characters, I was always better at speaking and pronunciation, and my characters are not very pretty to look at, and difficult for me to remember how to write them as well. So, do what you're good at. And keep going with your Chinese. Don't let that slow you down. Chinese is super cool. And classical Chinese is really, really cool if you want to try that out. And that, of course, is it's all reading, just reading and translating. Okay, where are we? I don't even know what that is. Seaweed. So the dictionary came up with 海藻. 藻, that would be ZAO third tone, right? So that's our DZ sound. Can you do that? 藻, 藻. Now, it's a homophone with what? Good morning, right? We learned how to say 早, 早, 早上好, right? So it's a homophone, but it's a different character. And that's not what I learned. I always said 海带, 海带, which would be HAI third tone, DAI fourth tone. But I don't know. I'm going to stay with 海带 until somebody corrects me. We saw a snail shell, and I happen to think that is called an olive snail. And Siri came up with a literal translation of that, which is 橄榄蜗牛, which literally is olive snail, which I think is kind of funny. Maybe that's how you say it. Why not, right? Again, here's another literal one for sand crabs. 沙蟹. So beach is 沙滩, right? And 螃蟹 is or is it 螃蟹? I forget the tone, but crabs. Crab. Yummy, yum, yum. 蟹. 沙蟹 is what we're coming up with for sand crab. Fish. 鱼. 一乌鱼. 钓鱼 is to go fishing. 钓鱼. 一乌鱼. YU with the umlauts. Third tone. 钓鱼. Da 酒店. A 酒店 is a hotel. 饭店 is a restaurant. 吃饭的饭. 酒喝酒的酒. 酒 is alcohol. So a 酒店 is a hotel. For some reason, you go to a hotel to drink alcohol. Of course. I guess. 酒店. 旅馆 is another word for hotel. 旅馆. LU with the umlaut, second tone, right? 绿色 is the color green. 绿. So again, you're ending up with a little 绿. It's almost the same shape with your lips that you make when you're whistling. 绿. 旅馆is hotel, or 酒店 is also hotel. Clouds. 云. There we go again. So that would be Y, U with the umlauts, second tone, N. 云 are clouds. Okay, bicycles. Remember, we had two ways of saying that. I remember in Taiwan, I think they said 自行车. And in mainland China, I believe they said 脚踏车. 脚 is a foot, 踏 is to press down, 车 is a vehicle. 自行车 is is like alone or by oneself. 行 is to move. And a 车 is a vehicle. Excuse me. We're exercising our vocal muscles, aren't we? Seagull. Hi, oh. Is this, I think we, oh good, yeah, right, that was on our flashcard. Sea treasure is just something I thought of walking down the beach. We're looking for treasure, right? Sea treasure. And treasure, I knew 宝 was treasure. 宝藏. So here's a tough one. This is a tough initial. 藏 is the TS sound, and it's spelled with a C. So 宝藏 would be BAO, third tone, CANG, fourth tone. So again, the C is like a TS. Tss, tss. Remember that one? That was from chapter 1. And that's when like you light the fuse. Tss, and it starts burning like on dynamite. Stick a dynamite in the cartoons, right? They light the fuse and psst, or tss. So, 宝藏, right? 海滩宝藏 beach treasure 海滩宝藏 beach treasure. Or what did I say? Sea treasure. Siri came up with 海洋 sorry, second tone. 海洋宝藏 海洋 would be HAI third tone, YANG second tone, right? And then 宝藏 and 藏 again is CANG fourth tone. Good. And remember our paragliding, last but not least, was 滑翔伞运动滑翔伞运动 Okay, good. So now, So if we want, we can do some substitution drills with this type of thing. And, we're just getting started. But we could say, for example, 你在海滩有看到什么？什么 SHEN second tone, MA neutral. 什么is what? 在 is to be at or in a place, right? So 你在海滩 right? When you were at the beach, or at the beach, sorry, 有看到什么? Just try to repeat that. 你在海滩有看到什么? You could also say, 你在海滩有看到什么东西? Well, what kind of things did you see at the beach? 你在海滩有看到什么? What did you see at the beach? Right? And you could say, so when you're learning Chinese and you're doing these response drills, try to get in the habit of repeating as much of the sentence back as you can. So I know in the book they'll show you the responses, right? And you'll notice that they often do that. And I know I'm fumbling over my words here, but as a way to sort of cement your grammar knowledge, try to sort of repeat the structure of the sentences as you hear it. As you get more advanced in Chinese, you can do without a lot of that structure and kind of take shortcuts to effectively and skillfully answer. But in terms of getting the grammar down and getting the structure, it really helps to sort of try to repeat as much of the sentence back in your answer as you can. So, 你在海滩有看到什么？我在海滩有看到fill in the blank, right? 你在海滩有看到什么？我在海滩有看到海浪 waves. I saw waves at the beach. Right? 你在海滩有看到什么？我在海滩有看到人找海滩玻璃。有看到找海滩玻璃的人。That's getting way ahead of ourselves, but that's how you would say I saw people looking for sea glass. So people looking for sea glass is 找海滩玻璃的人。 And we're going to get into all that later. I apologize for that. 你在海滩有没有看到漂亮的石头 Did you see any pretty rocks at the beach? 是。我在海滩有看到漂亮的石头 So in Chinese, they also, we call them reduplicative verbs, like 有没有,有没有. 有 is to have, 没有 is to not have. So the way you ask if you have something, right? 你有没有书?你有没有书? 书 is book. 你有没有书? Do you have a book? 我有书。我这边有书。So I can also say, 你在海滩有没有看到海鸥? So to 看 is to see, that's K-A-N fourth tone. And to 看到什么? We're getting way ahead of ourselves, but 看到, you can just repeat it for now, just for fun. 看到 Dao is a completion of action. So 有没有看到? Did you see 海鸥? 你在海滩有没有看到海鸥? 有。我在海滩有看到海鸥. Wow, that's a lot. But you can hear in that question and answer that I've tried to repeat as much of the structure as I can, right? I also used that reduplicative verb structure. 你在海滩有没有看到海鸥? 我在海滩有看到海鸥。你在海滩有没有看到海鸥? Did you see any seagulls at the beach? I can also say 有。I have. I did. Isn't that funny? 你在海滩有没有看到海鸥? 有。很多。A lot. Many 海鸥, right? 海滩的海鸥很多. There are many seagulls at the beach. Fun, right? So you can just, I know we're getting way ahead of ourselves, and I apologize. But you can start having fun with this stuff pretty quickly with some simple substitution drills. I know it would be a lot easier if you could see that written out with a blank and then have some things to put in there, and you can just read them and follow the tones, right? And that's where I could create some really cool content with this stuff, and perhaps I will. Maybe I can make a little worksheet, then you could just screenshot it or whatever, and let's do that. I'll write it down. So what else? What was my other homework? I had another homework. Anyway, let's do substitution drills, and I'll write them out. Sub drills, worksheet. Okay, that's my homework. I don't want to frustrate you, and you're going to get really frustrated if we're talking about pronunciation, new pronunciation, phonetics, reduplicating verbs, giant dictionaries, classical Chinese. What's the thing? Lions and tigers and bears. Oh my. Ah! Yeah, I'm frightened already. So that's a lot, right? But we're having some fun. We have our flashcards. We got to go to the beach. We wrote down a bunch of stuff. It's context specific. We're motivated to go back to the beach. That's not such a bad thing. We can bring our flashcards and we can practice at the beach. After we have our, if you were super brave and tried to write down some of the verb structures and whatnot, from our little Q&A substitution stuff. You could take that to the beach. Anyway, yeah, grab a friend, grab a study partner, get a little picnic lunch, and take that to the beach. Shoot, write down picnic lunch stuff. Maybe that's the next unit. A picnic lunch. How do you say grapes in Chinese? 葡萄. 葡萄. Okay, so that's going to be it for now. Thank you for coming and for putting up with me and my rambling. I hope you learned something. I hope it wasn't too frustrating. How did you do on your quiz last time? Was it difficult? If you want to take the quiz on chapter 1, it wasn't super easy, but it was a good review. We're diving into lesson 2. We'll get back to some of these pronunciation of our, there's another big phonetics chart in chapter 2. So we'll tackle that, and we'll maybe give a little review on chapter 2 since we did the vocab and we did the dialogues, but that was a while ago. So maybe we'll start with a quick review, and then we'll dive right into chapter 2. And I want to tackle all of that pronunciation slowly and methodically, and go over the grammar stuff slowly and methodically as we go through the book. But I also want to start doing some more advanced grammar tips as well. It won't hurt you to start your journey into Chinese grammar. It's done with particles. We don't conjugate verbs. Everything's done with particles that indicate this, that, and the other thing. And they're difficult. So, Chinese uses a few particles, but depending on where you use them and what you do with them, you get quite different results. So it won't hurt you to kind of dive into that. And that's what we're going to do. I also want to do some more fun stuff. I talked about classical Chinese poetry. It'd be really cool to show you more of this. I want to pick up, there's a little book you can get that I'm going to be using. I haven't bought it yet, but it's called A Little Primer of Dufu, and it's an old book of Dufu Tang Dynasty poetry, translated by a gentleman named David Hawkes, I believe. And it's really great. It has the classical Chinese right there. It's annotated classical Chinese, so it's kind of all sort of looked up and translated for you, I believe. But done in a very scholarly fashion. It's not a textbook. This is a scholar's book of poetry. So it's cool. Cool, man. So thanks for coming. Thanks for coming to my class and not ditching and going to the beach. And have a super day. Please subscribe to the channel, like the videos, and share them with your friends. And we'll see you next time. 下一次见，谢谢你们来参加德伟老师的中文教学。Bye for now.